What's up YouTube? Nathan B Tech here. We're back here for another video. I can't believe it's been a year already since we did our 9. However, the 10 series did come out, and most recently, finally after 2 months, the 10 Pro Fold is finally here. I've been using it since it's come out, since its release, which is a little bit under a week now. And I'm going to give you my 2 cents and tell you how I feel and what I like about it and what I don't like about it and the pros and cons. So, without further ado, let's do what we do and get into the video. Let's get it. Alright, so going into design, I would consider this phone more of a refinement of last year's model. So that meaning it is pretty much identical to last year's. However, there have been some tweaks to make the device better in general. One of those tweaks being that the bezels have shrinked quite a bit. So now you do get a little bit more screen real estate, which would go from a 6.3 to a 6.4 without changing the form factor in terms of that cover screen. So that's a huge plus. There's no downs on that. And I'll be completely honest with you guys, I do prefer the smaller screen on the outer display, because if I'm going to be using my device like this, I would want it to be smaller, and then I can unfold it into an 8 inch and have more screen real estate. I think it's pretty clever versus Samsung's technique is big screen on the outside, big screen on the inside. So it makes sense still, but if I'm going to be using the phone, I'd rather it be smaller. That opens up to be something bigger. That way I'm getting the best of both worlds, you know what I mean? So I do appreciate that in terms of the screen size. But for the most part, everything else is relatively underneath the body of the phone in terms of design. So now we do have the first gearless hinge, I believe, in the world, which means it is the first foldable, let me say that again for you guys, the first foldable that is IP68 water and dust resistant. And just a quick backstory, that is huge because recently I just came back from San Diego and I had my phone in my pocket. I did not get sand or anything in my pocket, but somehow sand was still able to get inside the fold. And when I opened it on the beach with sand, you can still hear it if you try. There's some little sand minerals inside this hinge. And the first time I opened it, and that sound that it was making when you open and close it was terrifying. So I'm pleased to say you will not run into that issue anymore on the Pixel 10 Pro Fold and Up series unless they change the hinge, which I highly doubt. That being said, it is still water resistant as well. There is a couple other manufacturers that have been able to get that 8 rating on the IP ingress protection. So that's not a huge deal, but the fact that it is now sand proof and mineral proof, and that is immaculate. So thank you, Google. I was not expecting you to be first in anything, and you surprised me. And round of applause. Now, in terms of competition, it did shrink, right? It got thinner, and that's great and all, but we have to be honest and be fair and compare it to its competitor. And Samsung has went outstanding this year. They did a really good job. I believe they're prepping for something, wink. But as a side-by-side, let me see if I can put these on side-by-side for you. It's thinner, the Z Fold, 100%. Here, I'll do it this way so you get a better understanding. Let's see. It is quite a bit thinner. Can y'all see that? It is quite a bit thinner, but it's not the end of the world. Like, it is millimeters apart. And to be honest with you, it doesn't necessarily bother me all too much. However, the one thing that you will notice if you are in the market of comparing the Z Fold 7 and the Pixel 10 Pro Fold, and it's the first thing that I've noticed immediately, and it's the first thing that people notice when you're holding the devices. Although, in terms of size, this is shorter and this is thinner, weight is a huge difference. On paper, it's a little bit more heavier in terms of grams, but in person, this thing, it is noticeably heavier. And if that doesn't concern you, that's great. And to be honest, it is a fair weight. It's a nice heftiness to it. It feels good. It doesn't feel like a cheap heftiness, if that makes sense. It feels like really solid. So there's not necessarily anything bad with it. But if you are someone who does concern about the weight of a phone, I know there is people out there who have carpal tunnel, all that good stuff. keep that in mind. And I would highly recommend you going into a local Best Buy or whatever store you have, the Google store, etc., to pick it up in your hands and feel what it feels like. It is heavier than a traditional phone. And if you're planning to put a case on it, I would highly recommend go checking it out first before you put a case on this, because this is heavy as is. This feels like a phone with a case and then some. So if you're planning to put a case on top of this, just be prepared for what you're walking into. Reason being is, and this is the last design feature, is they have my favorite feature, and a feature that I throw all of my freaking phones on. I put it on every phone, and finally it's integrated. It is called Pixel Snap, which means it has the magnet array. It has Qi Charging 2.0 that gives you magnetic accessories. Thank you, Pixel. I was not expecting this to come to Android besides the HMD Skyline next 3 years. And Google came out of nowhere and put Pixel Snap on the Pixel 10 series, and that has been my favorite feature. It's a fun feature. It's either you use it never or you use it all the time, and I'm one of the guys that use it all the time. It's a simple ease of life feature. It's good for car stands. It's good for house charging units, which I have plenty of. It's good for magnetic wallets. It's good for accessories. It is a great feature, and not only that, it just helps out with charging in general because it aligns the magnet array. That's been my favorite feature. That was immediately one of the few reasons I decided to upgrade, was just having this built in, because I don't like rocking cases on my phone, but I've always had to in order to get like the magnet on there. So thank you, Pixel. Now, going into performance, I want to talk about the little things first, and then we'll go into the big controversy in the room regarding the Pixel Tensor chip G5. Every year, that's always the problem. It's the Tensor chip, so we'll save that for last. But in terms of performance, this is a huge battery inside a foldable. It is a 5,015 milliamp hour battery. So that kind of dwarfs its competitors in terms of the battery compartment, at least in the United States. I know there is the China phones that have the carbon lithium, and I wish we'll get that one day. But in America, compared to the Z Fold, it is 615 milliamp hours bigger, right? Now, in terms of that, that would definitely see better battery life, 100%, maybe getting you an additional hour if most. In terms of the Tensor G5 chip, let's talk about it. Let's have that conversation. So, it's faster than last year's model. And if you guys have watched my last year's model of the Pixel 9 series device, I praised it. I talked about how fast it feels. I've talked about how it doesn't stutter. I've talked about how it's great, and I never had any issues. Bear in mind, I'm not video editing on my phone. I'm not gaming on my phone. So if that's something you do, definitely look to like a Snapdragon device. If you're playing a lot of games, don't even about the Pixel, bro. Just go straight to Samsung, go to OnePlus, etc. Because this guy, as lovely as it is, it doesn't even support ray tracing. So if you're a gamer, I don't recommend this device. If that's your main concern and you are strictly here for gaming, just take off. Now, secondly, going back to how it is compared to the Pixel 9, it's about 30% faster. Once again, Google put all of its gems into AI processing. So I believe it's about 60% faster than last year's model in terms of AI processing. And although we don't see it right now, given that Google software updates and Pixel drops is all AI based, I'm sure there will be a feature one day that comes out where it will be significantly faster on Pixel than it will be on any device. So keep that in mind. If AI is something that you love and something that you utilize, this might be a great device for you. But into day-to-day usage, as I said in my Pixel 9 video, it is great. It is smooth. The Pixel software, the animations, the way that they just make things come in and out, you never notice it being slow because they've amped up the animation speed and it feels quick. It feels like ready to go. But like I said, if gaming is concerned, don't even think about it. Just take off. Go find you something else. But yeah, I mean, the issues with my Pixel devices. Now, obviously, they switched to TSMC, and that's beneficial because that means that the cooling has finally been solved. I love devices, but I'm not brave enough to keep a Pixel device in my pocket when I'm running wireless Android Auto. Those things would cook my pocket and get really hot, and it felt uncomfortable. I am proud to say I've not had that issue on this guy. I can keep it in my pocket and drive for hours, and it doesn't get hot to the touch to where it's kind of concerning me in the car. So that's huge. Thermals, it's still a little bit higher than like the Snapdragons, but it's like minimum, right? This phone not got nowhere near as hot as me on me compared to the Pixel 9 series. So they did solve that issue. So I think going forward, I don't think we have to worry about overheating problems anymore. I think we finally solved it. Great job, Pixel. We're finally there. So now we just really need to focus on, we got the thermals down, we got the AI up. Next year, hopefully they just focus on pure performance, because that's the one thing that's keeping a lot of people back in the tech community, right? But yeah, back to it. Not had any issues with it. It's been great. It runs cooler, a larger battery, Tensor G6. Now going to camera, I'm not gonna make this a huge segment. It's the last year's model. If you're familiar with last year's, it's still a great camera, but it's not as good as the 10 Pro series. It's just not gonna be as good. My unfortunate feature that I found out I didn't have was the AI zoom. In order to get the AI zoom, it has to be 30 times and above. This guy can only supply up to 20 times. I did do some comparisons with my Z Fold 7 though. And even though 48 megapixel versus a 230 times zoom versus 20 times zoom, I was actually getting clearer photos when zoomed in all the way. And that's thanks to Google's post-processing, which they've been the king at. So if you're familiar with this phone or the Edge, it's still, I would say, a better camera. The 200 pixels really doesn't mean nothing if it still comes out as bad. So yeah, last and not least, and this is what keeps me on Pixel, you know, for everybody, and it is just the software. It is just so smooth and buttery and great and bubbly and lovely and colorful. It's you know, and gotten better with the Pixel 10 series, because now we have Android 16 with Material U, and although it's been a slow rollout, a lot of the apps are updating to Material U, where you do have your different funky fonts. But then with Android 16, you know, they did even more haptics inside Material U expressive, and to say the least, the best I can describe it, it's expressive, you know. If I could put all of my software side by side, the best way I could describe Material U expressive is it feels the most alive. Like, it feels like it's in a different realm. Like, I get that same experience from a Samsung device. I don't get that same experience from a OnePlus device. Like, they're great and they're smooth, but when it comes to that liveliness of it, Google takes the cake. Like, the animations, even when you're like swiping up, you see the taskbar sink down before the app actually pops up. That's crazy. When you open up, you know, and you swipe away, and it sticks, and it gives you the haptic feedback of it not wanting to go, which is ironic because you're trying to move it away. But then if you do it slowly, you can feel the haptics just gradually build over time until you get to a certain point and it snaps, and it just snaps right off. And it's so weird, but it's so cool. And for how often you use your phone on a day-to-day basis, having that extra bit of like realism to it is great. You know, it puts you back in reality a little bit, which sounds crazy, but hear me out. You don't know until you know, you know. But yeah, everything regarding the Pixel software and Material U, it's super nice. Obviously expressive, Material U expressive. They've done a lot of the redesign with the colors, and a lot of people like it and a lot of people don't like it. I encourage you to go and feel it for yourself, because I will tell you, when I watch videos on it, it looks ugly, but when I'm holding it in my hand, it looks great. I don't know how that works. I don't know why it works that way, but definitely check it out before you put your verdict on it. But going into the final verdict, I just want to tell you, obviously I have Z Fold right in my hand right here. I have the OnePlus 13 right here on my left. And I bought this with my own personal money as well, the Pixel 10 Pro Fold. This is thinner. This is more powerful. This on paper has a better camera. This has got lighter feel. This is everything better, right? But just like every other YouTuber, and I know it sounds crazy, but I'm just a huge geek, I'm still going to choose the Pixel 10 Pro Fold. Simply for software updates, getting them day one, getting pixel drops immediately, getting the core Android experience. Big thing for me is this Pixel Snap, because when I had this, if you watched my last video, I'd stuck it on there, but there's no magnet, so over time it falls off. I don't worry about it with this one. And I don't know, I just found I love this software. Material 3 Expressive keeps me here. Pixel Snap is going to keep me to stay here until anybody else decides to put some magnet arrays. Samsung, OnePlus, anybody please. And just updates, you know. I love Pixel. I love what they do. Yes, it's not the fastest, but it sure is the smoothest, and you won't know until you know. So, without further ado, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace!